Greenlight Network presents Football Time.
Hey, and welcome to the Football Time Show. We're here for Week 7. We're 7 weeks into the football season. This is hovering close to the, I guess this would be halfway point, a little bit over the halfway point, I guess we got 17 games instead of 16 games, so I guess next week is sort of the halfway point. So I guess we're about a quarter and some change through the season this week. Interesting week in Week 7 here. This should be a fun finding five mutuals here. The only thing I could say is we just take every one of those large spreads and know we're at least going to win a couple of them.
Oh man, it looks like a rough slate of games this week. Now we don't really take money lines, but hint, I took a lot of money lines.
All right, so let's kick things off with the entertaining matchup. That is the Washington football team versus the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers, speaking of big spreads, are 8-point favorites at home here. The total sits at 48.5. First half is a 4.5-point spread for the Green Bay Packers. Total sits at 24.5 here. You know, this pretty much game sums up the week here. Bad team going to a good team. And I don't think the outcome is too much in doubt, but can they cover the 8? The Packers have traditionally been a team that does not really like to cover these large spreads. They tend to get up on teams and then let the teams back in the game in the fourth quarter and then win this out. So how do you see this game playing out here?
I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think that at least 99% of the country would assume that Green Bay is going to win this game. The issue becomes, can they cover that spread? And it's a little concerning to me because, as we've seen, even though Green Bay, has won plenty of games so far this season, they haven't made it easy on themselves. Defensively, they haven't really been showing up, and it's really been up to that offense to put up enough points to come out on top. And as I mentioned, even though they pulled off wins, it's been a little too close for comfort, in my opinion. Not the type of Green Bay team that I expected coming into the season. But, they're still winning games and they're taking care of business. But, again, the question is, can they cover the spread?
Yeah, you mentioned it money-wise. I looked at the money line splits, and surprisingly enough, ticket-wise, it's 72% Green Bay, 28% Washington. But then you look at the actual cash that is wagered on the two, and it's 96% Green Bay, 4% Washington. So it seems like a lot of people are taking $1 and $2 and putting them on the Washington football team, and then everybody else is just throwing large sums of money on Green Bay money line. But I can't even talk myself in to Washington here on the the 8 points. The only thing that I would do was because it was 8 points. I mean, Washington's defense has been really, really poor. I don't know if their offense is capable of sort of generating enough points to catch that backdoor cover. I mean, we saw it last week versus the Chiefs. And that was a home game. It wasn't going to Green Bay. So, I can't convince myself to take that side of the thing where I'm like, yeah, let's just take Washington, ride those 8 points. Green Bay doesn't tend to cover these large spreads, but I'm like, Washington's defense has been so bad, I don't know if they could get stops versus Green Bay. Washington's offense has been so bad, I don't think they can backdoor cover this. You flip things around to the other side of things, and the problem comes if Green Bay wants to cover this spread, they'll cover this spread. They'll win, 30-15 if they want to, like the Chiefs did, or they'll win, 24-17, and we get an annoying loss on that. So I just really can't handicap this game overall. You switch to the over-under, and even that number, I don't really love, 48.5. That's asking Green Bay to score a lot of points, probably at least 30, because I think you probably cap the Washington football team in and around 17 to 20 points for this game. So to hit that number at 48.5, they'd have to hit 30, and then you flip things over to the underside of things. Green Bay can pretty much score what they want, judging from what we've seen from the Washington football team. So I went no side of that. So any other thoughts on this game? You think you can find some way to throw this in here, or is this just let's cross this puppy off?
Well, the issue becomes when you look at the slate of games for this week, and we have some very, very large spreads, both for home teams and for road favorites, which is a little concerning, especially with all the teams on bye. So it's going to be very slim picking. So I think that this is one of those that we have to find something to put on the maybe column. And I was leaning more towards the under on it. I know that you're a little hesitant on it, but the way I've looked at it is, Washington's given up at least 30 points per game over the last 4 games. And Green Bay, although they haven't really shown up defensively, I don't think that's as big of a concern because Washington's offense hasn't really been humming. Yes, Heineke's been playing a little bit better, but I don't think he's done enough to really instill any fear in me that he can put up 20, 24 points, with his football team. So I think that we have to take something out of each of these games and put him on the maybe column, because I can tell you right now, we're going to have a really hard time coming up with 5 for 5. So I think that, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think from this particular game, the most attractive feature for me is definitely the under in that over-under.
Yeah, if you ask me to force a bet on this game, I think I would be under on that total. The other one I might look at is first half, 4.5 for Green Bay, maybe, because they do tend to jump out to those, big leads. But that being said, it would probably be more of a first quarter Green Bay bet than a first half Green Bay bet that I would like there. So, I think you're right. We should probably find something to put away for each of these games. Since we're both, I don't think we're in love with it, but I'd say we're in agreement on if we were betting on anything in this game, it'd probably be the under.
Yeah, definitely. I'm putting it down the maybe column just for, just for the heck of it. We'll see what happens. Obviously, like I said, a lot of these games are going to be really hard to really predict. So I think we just set up a separate list, and then we can just make up our minds later.
Yeah, definitely so. All right, we'll move on to, I'd say this is probably the biggest game of the weekend, at least the best matchup of 2 teams that we know are good football teams, probably depending on your take on the Cincinnati Bengals. But Kansas City Chiefs go to the Tennessee Titans here. I was really shocked the spread was this high. I mean, they just don't want people betting on the Chiefs ever. Kansas City going to Tennessee, 4.5-point favorites on the road in Tennessee. Total sits at 57.5 here. First half is -3. Total sits at 28.5 here. This should be a really entertaining game. I'm guessing there are going to be points scored in this puppy here, considering both teams' defensive liabilities. This breakdown pretty easy. Tennessee Titans are going to be able to run the ball with Derrick Henry on this Kansas City Chiefs team. Do they run the ball with the measure of keeping the ball, or do they run the ball trying to hit explosive plays and handing Kansas City Chiefs the ball back on the offensive side of things? Because my guess is the Titans aren't going to be able to cover, Tyreek Hill and Kelsey in this game, so they might hit them back. How does this game play out? Or does Tennessee just go, let's shoot this puppy out and see where the chips may lie here?
This is another one of those games that I had a really hard time handicapping, and basically it came down to gut feelings with this. When I was looking at this, Chiefs, their 3 losses this season so far have been against divisional leaders, and Tennessee just happens to be one of those. But Derrick Henry's a monster, man. He's currently at 780 something yards, which I believe is more yards than 26 of the 32 NFL teams, which is pretty crazy when you start thinking about it. Especially when you consider the fact that a lot of these teams, they're combining the rushing yards between, all the other guys. So he's having a great season. The issue with Tennessee is that Tennessee's not the type of team that's going to try and control the ball by running just a running attack. They use their running attack to make big plays and score. And you saw it last week against, who they play? Baltimore?
Tennessee?
Sorry, Tennessee. Yeah.
Buffalo.
So I don't know why I'm thinking of Baltimore. But you saw it last week when Derrick Henry he kept breaking off these big runs. One thing if the Tennessee Titans happen to play close to what they played to last week defensively, I think it'll make for a much better matchup. The issue then becomes, I don't think that the Chiefs are built like the Bills. The Bills have had issues so far this season with their goal line, their red zone, scoring percentage. And the Chiefs don't tend to have that type of issue. The Chiefs tend to be a really high-scoring offense. So, all that stuff gives me a little bit of pause. Again, to me, this is one of those games where we have to pick something in this game and just put it in the maybe column because it's hard to really think. I could totally see Tennessee win this game, by the way.
Yeah, so could I.
But, it's hard for me to pick against the Chiefs on any given Sunday.
Yeah, the numbers on this are just, bad. You look at the Kansas City defense, 31st ranked in total DVOA on the defensive side of the ball. You're like, oh, maybe we have an advantage there. You look at Tennessee's defense, 28th total DVOA on that side of the ball. Then you look on the, maybe we can find something in the first half that gives it to us. Kansas City's offense in the first half is ranked number 3. Tennessee's defense is ranked number 23. So you're like, oh, maybe there's an advantage there to be had. But then you look at Kansas City's defense in the first half, it's 32nd. So they have the worst defense in the first half of any team in football. I will say the only thing I can sort of see is Tennessee's offense is ranked 24th overall in the first half in these. Maybe. You saw it last week versus Buffalo. They didn't really get going until that second half. Maybe there's a first half line of Kansas City Chiefs here, but I don't really like that. Total 57.5. Yeah, I think this game's going to be a shootout, but I think the only way Tennessee can win this game is by keeping the ball out of Kansas City's hands. So they might just be running Derrick Henry 6, 7, 8 yards a pop, eating all that clock, and not really pushing the pace on this game to let this game get to 60 points. Whereas the average yards per play might be ridiculously high in this game, but the point total might be low because the time of possession is being, soaked up by all Tennessee. I mentioned the first half, Kansas City -3. I just don't like taking road first half teams favored unless it's, a really, really lopsided matchup. So I don't think that number's in our way. And then the first half total at 28.5. At almost 30. I mean, that's essentially saying every possession somebody's scoring points here, usually touchdowns.
Listen, I saw some stats somewhere. I think it was on NFL.com, and it said the Chiefs and the Titans have allowed over 26 points per game and over 375 yards per game this season, and only 2 teams in history have made the playoffs after starts like that. And one of them was the last year's Titans and the 1970 Chiefs. So both teams giving up a lot of points, giving up a lot of yards, but both teams also have a history of making the playoffs after doing so. So kind of crazy. I really have a hard time, probably one of the hardest games to really predict this week for me.
Yeah, definitely so. I just sort of wanted no part of any of this. I just thought it was, I think if they'd give me Chiefs pick'em, I probably would have ridden there, but I just don't like the fact that the Chiefs are favored when you got Tennessee coming off a win at Buffalo. They tend to play better in these high leverage games than games for slower level teams. But I also want no part of taking against the Kansas City Chiefs in a spread that's this low as well.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
I just don't know what to do to this game. I know we said we were probably going to put one thing in the bank in every one, but I don't know what side to see here in the bank unless you got something that you're seeing.
No, I mean, other than there was some stat I read somewhere, and it had to do with Travis Kelce. I'm trying to recall what it said. Um, what was I think that it has something to do about his performance versus the Titans, and I think that he's had under 75 yards in each game that he's played against the Tennessee Titans. So they've really found a way to kind of hold them back. Although 75 yards for a Titan is still pretty good,
Yeah.
but we're talking about Travis Kelce, so it seems like such a shock that he's being held under 100 yards.
Yeah, I also think in the past they tended to man up those wide receivers, and they've taken care of that problem. But they've been playing a little bit more zone this season, so maybe that has something. But everybody's basically just set in the two deep shell versus the Chiefs, and sort of said, "Why don't you run 25 plays to get your score instead of running two?" So I assume Tennessee probably will adopt the same system and sit in, a two deep shell and try not to get beat over the top by their playmakers. So I think we just pass on this one. We got a barn burner of a game next up. Atlanta Falcons versus the Miami Dolphins. 2.5 for the Miami Dolphins here. Total at 47.5. First half is, a pick 'em with the tie on the Miami side. Total 23.5 in the first half here. This is a really bad football game. That's pretty much how I can sum this up. I do have a pick on this one. I'm leaning Dolphins plus 2.5 at home. But there are some things going against me here. Atlanta's coming off a bye. Miami's coming off a trip to London. Now, Atlanta was in London the game before this, but they did have that bye. Miami's the only team that's going to come off of London and not have their bye. So that gives me a little bit of pause. As bad as Miami was last week, they were in position to win that game until they sort of melted down. I thought Tua looked a little bit better in this game. And as of right now, theoretically, Devontae Parker is on pace to play in this game. So we might be able to get at least a Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, pairing here at wide receiver. I lean a little bit Miami here, but I'm curious your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, when I was looking at this game, I had a little bit of a feeling that this was definitely the type of matchup that the Dolphins could kind of start, feeling good about because you're playing against a pretty porous defense. Granted, I know that a lot of people are probably going to go with Atlanta in this game simply because they had an extra week of preparation. And then we saw that devastating loss last week, across the pond for the Dolphins. But then as I was looking at some of the stats, the Dolphins have only scored more than 20 points one time this season, and that was in an overtime game. As you mentioned, there's a chance that they get one of their wide receivers back, which I'm sure would be a huge help. But I don't know. This is really more of a gut feeling. I think that the Dolphins might be able to sneak away with the win here, and I've got really nothing to back it up more than other than just a gut feeling. This is a really tough week to really plan out. I don't know how we're going to get to 5 games.
Yeah, you said it. This is a gut feeling game because I cannot give you, I think the Dolphins are going to get deep here and make explosive plays, considering they have not done that for 6 weeks. I can't say, I think the Dolphins are going to be able to run the ball in Atlanta because they haven't even tried to run the ball for the previous 3 weeks. And then you dive deep into their total DVOA. Miami is 28, Atlanta is 32. On the offensive side of things, Miami is 30 in total DVA on offense. Atlanta is 29 in total DVA on offense. Then you're like, maybe they're defensive teams. Atlanta, total defense and total DVOA is 30. Miami's defense is 26. These are just really, really bad football teams here. Probably trying to handicap this game is stupid overall. But like you said, I just have a little bit of a gut feeling that Miami maybe gets back on track here, finds something, and they can win this game, and they're getting plus at home. I don't know what a home field advantage here is, but I do think home dog. I think Miami's a better team. I think this is as good as we can probably do on this kind of week.
Now, before we move on from this game, I got a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about. First, I don't know how much confidence this is going to build in your gut feeling, but the Dolphins are the only team in the NFL that ranks in the bottom 5 in scoring offense and in points given up on defense. I don't know if that gives you a bigger confidence boost or not. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is I sent you a text earlier this week when I started hearing the rumors about a potential Deshaun Watson trade to the Dolphins. I haven't heard much more from it, but if that were the case, do you think this moves the Dolphins into, a more competitive role in that division, or do you think this is just all glitz and glamour?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of chatter, and maybe when this nonsense started, in July, it might have affected them. But I think it's been going on so long, and I don't think the Dolphins care one way or the other. They just ignore it. Flores said in his press conference today, Tua is our QB, and like I've said, a handful of other times, Watson is not suspended, technically speaking, but he is suspended. So, all this talk of, Watson being traded and then suiting up and going out there, the second a team activates him, the NFL is going to suspend him. They aren't going to let him play with 23 sexual assault allegations, pending. That's just...
Now, if it was 22, that'd be a different story, right?
I think so, but that's what I mean. Everybody floats these rumors, and then they throw up he's not technically suspended. I'm like, well, yeah, but the NFL has basically said, we aren't going to do anything as long as he's not actively playing, and we don't have to put him front and center on TV. So, I mean, even that part of, the trade rumors, I'm like, even if they were to make that trade, Watson's not playing this season anyway. So,
and not just that, what do you have to give up to get him?
Yeah,
because I know there's all those issues with him, right now with the allegations of sexual misconduct, but we saw what the asking price was for him prior to all these things popping up, and I can't for the life of me assume that the asking price has gone down. So I think you would have to give up Tua and probably some other sort of compensation, which as you mentioned, the fact that he's more than likely going to get suspended at some point, I don't think it's worth it, if you ask me.
Yeah. How much better would the Dolphins be this season with Deshaun Watson? What are they, 2 wins instead of 1 win? Their receivers have been terrible. Their defense has been awful, which is the main problem. I know people think, Fitzmagic won a lot of those games last year, but it was the Dolphins defense that won the football games last year. Fitz just, didn't screw things up. So, maybe they're 2 wins, maybe they're 3 wins, but they're still a bad football team with Deshaun Watson in there or not. And then basically you're sacrificing, your future with 3 first-round picks. So basically Watson goes from a bad situation into the Texans that have no, first-round picks and no way of building, into the Dolphins who sacrifice their future and have no way of building and becoming good either. It just seems, if we were talking about Deshaun Watson going to the Steelers, maybe my eyes perk up a little bit here. Or he gets traded to the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe my eyes perk up a little bit here. Or the 49ers, teams that are built to sort of win now. I'm not quite sure the Miami Dolphins are built to win now unless you've seen something that I haven't seen in the past 6 weeks.
Well, listen, seeing as how you're probably the biggest Dolphins fan I know, I just had to ask. I know we spent way too much time already on this game and these two teams, but I just had to ask.
Yeah, I get that Watson's an upgrade over Tua. Watson's literally an upgrade over 95% of the QBs in the league. But if your team's not good, much like the Texans team isn't good, it doesn't really matter. It's, a tree falling in the forest when no one's around. It's sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I just sort of ignore it. One bad team trading assets to another bad team for more fake assets. It's just like, okay, talk to me when you have talent and are winning football games. All right, next up, another barn burner of a game. New York Jets, New England Patriots. Somehow the New England Patriots are favored by 7 points here in this one. I'm not quite sure what the New England Patriots have shown to win by 7. Last time they played a crappy team, they had to make a desperate fourth quarter comeback versus the Houston Texans to win that game. So Patriots minus 7, total sits at 42.5. First half total 3.5. First half total 21.5. First half spread 3.5 here. I don't know what to do with this. There's zero chance I'm taking a New England Patriot team minus 7 when their best game is probably that loss to Dallas last week, and they got shredded for about 600 yards of offense in that one. So, I if I had to take something, I'd probably just take the points and lean a little bit Jets coming off a bye. But it's not like I trust the Jets offense to score enough points there. Overall, I think the best unit on the field is probably the Jets defense, but the worst unit on the field is probably the Jets offense here. So do you have a side here? Are you seeing something in this game that you like?
Not really, but a couple of things that I was looking at when I was trying to make a decision. Mac Jones currently leads the league in completion percentage, I believe, for all rookie quarterbacks. The Patriots are 12-0, I believe, when facing a rookie quarterback at home in the Belichick era. So I don't know what you make of those, weird
They've
random
also lost
stats.
4 games at home this year. So
I will say this. Even though the Patriots defense has not been playing up to the standard that we expect a Bill Belichick defense to play, the offense has been looking a little bit better. It seems like Mac Jones starting to find his rhythm and starting to really take control of that offense. Unfortunately for him, he just doesn't have a lot of really good weapons. He's got a few,
Dropsies Aguilar.
Yeah, it just I wish he had like a big weapon that he could just throw it up to whenever he was in danger. But unfortunately, he doesn't have that. But the Jets, you look at the way the Jets have been playing on offense, they probably have one of the worst offenses in the league right now. I don't know what the young quarterback's interception rate currently stands at, but I'm pretty sure it's high. And this is definitely, it seems like one of those scenarios for that Bill Belichick defense to really thrive. But again, it's hard for me to feel confident in it because they haven't really shown it this season. So I don't have a feeling in this game either way. If I had to, if you put a bat to the back of my head and say pick something, I would probably take the Patriots, but I don't feel comfortable about it either way.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't touch the 7. That just, I mean, you saw this Patriots team once again, 2 weeks ago versus Davis Mills, who has been terrible and was, not good again last week. The only good game he's had was versus Patriots defense. So, coming off a bye, I don't like that. And it's just sort of, do I want to take
They played each other way too, right?
Who, the Jets?
The Jets and the Patriots?
Yeah, I think so.
So if I'm not mistaken, that's the game where the Patriots the Patriots forced 4 turnovers, right?
Yeah, they did. But if you remember, their offense couldn't score points.
But like I said, that offense has been getting better.
Yeah.
I'm still not sold either way. I don't know.
Don't try to sell yourself on the Patriots.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. It's a really rough
You're
week.
going to be
It is a really
watching
rough week.
Mac Jones throw half-yard passes to Ramondre Stevenson and be like, look, his completion percentage is good.
Dig and dunk passes all game long. Yeah, I don't know. This is a really rough week, man. I think we're gonna have a really hard time here.
The thing I will say, I did look at this total 42 and a half. New England has been kind on unders this year. And they bounced this thing back up. They were dropping around in that 39 range. They've bounced this one back up to 42 and a half. Probably because they think both quarterbacks are going to give up defensive touchdowns. But if we were trying to find something from each, game here, I think the total under 42 and a half would be what I stared at most here.
Well, I'm gonna put that down in our maybe column then, which is the second thing we have on our maybe column.
All right. Are you ready for the next one?
I mean, I guess so.
I'm sorry I have to read this, but Carolina is going to the New York Giants here. Carolina is a 3-point favorite. Total sits at 43. First half, 1.5 for Carolina. Total sits at 21.5. No Christian McCaffrey, which pretty much scares me off Carolina, especially from what I've seen the last couple weeks. I'm assuming Daniel Jones is playing in this one, though from what I saw last week, I'm not sure he should be playing in this one. Tony's out. Galladay's questionable, but I think he might be active, but I don't know how healthy he'll be. It's just the Giants are going to be bad again. It's whether you think Carolina's defense can shut the Giants down and how much you trust, Carolina's Sam back there. Where are you sitting on this one? I was a hard pass on this because I wasn't about to jump on Carolina as 3-point road favorites, considering they haven't been good since McCaffrey went out. But there was no way I was touching the Giants after what I saw last week.
Yeah, listen, you're totally correct in having second thoughts and taking Carolina as a road favorite. Even though I think we both kind of really like this Carolina team, especially when they're completely healthy. But Carolina is 0-3 without McCaffrey. And you can tell how much of an impact losing him really was. They've had some decent, contributions from the running backs, but it still does make up for what McCaffrey brings to the table. With that being said, you saw the way this Giants team played last week. They really played their hearts out on defense, for that first quarter, and then they got completely blown out of the water. I really expect Carolina to win this game. I think they're just a better football team right now. I don't think that, Daniel Jones should probably be playing right now, especially since, he suited up last week and took quite a few hits, and you saw the performers really take a deep dive when, this Rams defense is okay, but they're not a great defense. And for them to really turn the ball over as many times as they did, I think was more of a testament to Daniel Jones not being 100% than it was to that Rams defense being completely shut down defense. So I think Carolina pulls it off here, but I'm definitely hesitant in taking them as a road favorite, especially with the way they've performed without McCaffrey. So if I had to pick, I'd go Carolina. But again, to me, this is one of those that we have to find something for the maybe column.
Yeah. Carolina would be maybe my lean, but I have no interest in the 3. I can sell you on the, some BS stats to make it look like the first half. Carolina is okay. Carolina's defense ranks number 2 in first half DVOA. The New York Giants offense ranks number 30. Carolina's offense ranks 17 in DVOA in the first half. Carolina's defense ranks 20. So Carolina's been a really good first half team here, especially defensively. That being said, they got down about 28-7 last week. So, that trend and numbers were very good at the start of the season when we had a full healthy Christian McCaffrey offense and a full healthy Carolina defense. But they did play well in that first half in that Dallas game. So maybe there's a little bit something there with the first half number on Carolina at 1.5. That's basically they just have to win the first half, and it goes home a winner there. What do you think of that one?
I kind of like that one. Is that going to be our first mutual?
I thought we had the Dolphins first mutual on gut.
Are we going with the Dolphins?
We're going with the Dolphins.
Okay, I didn't write that one down. Let me write that one down before we keep going.
Judging by our guts, we should lean on them heavily and ride 2.5 Dolphins as our first mutual.
Are they plus 2.5?
Plus 2.5.
Okay. And so this would be our second one?
Our second one is first half Carolina minus 1.5.
Okay.
All right. These were exciting picks. Money is going to be placed heavily on these bets here. All right. Next up, at least this is a good game. I will say, in theory, though the spread does not put a lot of theory on the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. 6.5 for the Baltimore Ravens here. Total sits at 46.5. First half sits at 3.5. Total sits at 23.5. I think this basically comes down to how much you believe in the Bengals here. I think this line is a little bloated off of last week's, blasting of the Chargers for Baltimore. So if I said there was value one way or the other, I would say the value's in Cincinnati. But I'm not a huge proponent of taking Cincinnati on the road in Baltimore, even if I do think this team's an okay football team. I'm curious your take on this game.
My issue with this particular game, it feels to me like Baltimore this season has really played up to the level of its opponents. If they play against a good team, they play really good ball. If they play against a bad team, it looks like they're playing good ball, but it's only because they're being competitive with the poor team. Even with all that being said, Cincinnati has been playing some really good football. They've really gone under the radar so far this season. They've played against some pretty tough competition, and they've held their own. They haven't won every single game, but they've been competitive in just about every one. I think that this game will probably be a lot closer than people anticipate, but I do foresee Baltimore being a divisional opponent and all taking off as the game progresses towards the end of regulation. So even though it's a high spread, and them being at home, I kind of like Baltimore to win by a touchdown this one. They've obviously shown that they're one of the top teams in the league, even though they seem to play to their opponent's strength.
Yeah, I can sort of see that, but, I just think this Cincinnati defense is legit. And stats and numbers back it up. They're the number 5 overall ranked defense in total DVOA. Baltimore's actually below them at 14. So, now Baltimore's played, a little bit more difficult offenses, but, it just seems this Cincinnati defense is legit enough to slow this Ravens team down enough. And I'd be scared that Cincinnati makes, big enough plays to get inside this number. I do think Baltimore's a winner here. And I think, blowout potential definitely leans towards Baltimore, a lot more here because, maybe Cincinnati is that good, bad team where they can just beat up on, the riffraff of the league. I think this is their first real step-up game. I guess you could call that Green Bay game, a step-up game. They covered that one, but I thought Green Bay dominated that game and sort of fell asleep, there in the second half. If they wanted that to be a blowout, I think Green Bay could have blown that out, which sort of points back to our point in talking about our first game where you don't really like Green Bay with large spreads. I trust Baltimore a little bit more with a large spread, but I'm just sort of buying this Bengals team. I've been against them a couple times this year and just been burnt one too many times where it's not even where I watch the game and I'm going, oh, Cincinnati's, getting a freak play here, a freak play there. They're just good enough to play with a lot of these teams. So that 6.5 just scares me way too much.
Now, I will say this: I do have some action on this game, but it's again, this is a gut feeling. I wouldn't recommend people to take any action on this game. I think this is just let's sit back, enjoy this game and division opponents, and see where the chips. Let the chips fall. So, what's that? I'm sorry, I keep messing up saying this today. I worked a pretty long shift, and I'm a little on the tired side here, but let the chips fall where they may, as they say. I think this is going to be a quite entertaining game, as I mentioned earlier. I think that it's going to be tied going into the third quarter, but I think that the talent level in quarterbacks is what's going to really make the difference in this one, and it won't happen until late in that game. That's how I see it happening.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, we can mark it down as a maybe for you on the Baltimore side of things, and see if we can find a couple others. We got 2 down. We got 3 to go. And the back end here somehow manages to get worse than the front end. I'm not quite sure how that works out, but it does. I will say the next game we're talking about, I like. I'm very prepared to be disappointed in, but the Philadelphia Eagles go to the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders are 3-point favorites here. Total sits at 49, first half at 2.5. Total sits at 23.5. I like the Raiders here -3. I think this Philadelphia defense is poor, so I think the Raiders will be able to hit their explosive plays. Now, Philly's been really, really pretty solid against the spread, especially backdoor covering a lot of stuff and scoring points late. But, I like this Raiders team this week, thinking they can score a lot of points on the Eagles here, and they can keep that momentum going. I think at some point they'll drop off, but I think this week they keep that momentum going. That being said, I'm highly prepared to be disappointed by the Raiders. But this was one of the games that I signaled out is, I think the Raiders are more than 3 points better than the Eagles. I think this line probably should sit at 5 or 6, and I think we're getting a bargain here at 3.
I mean, if that's how you feel, when I was looking at the game, I had an inkling that I would probably end up taking the Raiders in this one, just simply based off their performance last week. I felt that they had a chance to really come out flat after all the drama that was going on with the team, yet they came out and they played really tough, and they actually played a lot better than I thought they would have. I do have some concerns whether that was a 1-week type of deal or if they can keep this momentum going further into the season. If we were to go just solely based off their performance on the field this season, I would say this is an easy cover because they've played well so far this season. But there is that, that inkling of, will this drama actually affect this team in the long term? And maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. I can't predict that, but I didn't take him in my personal picks, even though, like I said, when I looked at the game, I had a feeling that the Raiders could easily cover this one. So I think this is probably going to be our third game, just because how confident you felt in it just opening up. I think we're going to go with the Raiders on this one.
Yeah, I think this is a good bet here. And, if my read's right and the Raiders do dominate this game, this was my easiest one of the week. Now that, I say that and I'm prepared for stunner out in Vegas, Philadelphia off to a 28-7 start here or something. And, I've had enough of the Raiders' life, pretty much my whole life, to know how this goes. Every time you trust them, then they crush your soul. So I'm already prepared for the soul crusher here. But when I look at this team for team here, I just think this Raiders team is a better team than the Eagles. And certainly at home, -3, I think we're getting value.
Now, I will tell you this before we move on to the next one. I know they're different teams, especially the Eagles, but the Eagles have won 3 out of the last 4 when they've matched up against the Raiders. So if they somehow manage to pull it off again, don't be shocked. The numbers are on their side.
Or Terrell Pryor and Donovan McNabb playing quarterback. Did you look up the year and dates?
I think Michael Vick was even in one of those. So
Vince Young was manning or was it the Carson Palmer Raider team that was?
Carson. Oh gosh,
Oh, did you? Oh, Jamarcus Russell was probably involved in somewhere in there.
whatever happened to Jamarcus Russell?
He got addicted to the syrup and
That's
had
right,
some
and
issues.
put on some weight, right?
I think he might be somewhat okay now, but I I do remember him having some syrup issues.
This is it's perfect time of the year for a comeback here.
That's codeine syrup, not Aunt Jemima syrup.
I'm addicted to the Aunt Jemima.
We
Oh
probably aren't
wait,
allowed
it's
to
not. It's
say
not.
Aunt Jemima
It's not Aunt
anymore.
Jemima anymore. I apologize. It's Pearl Milling Company, I believe.
Yeah, that doesn't sound worse. The plantation that Aunt Jemima worked at is so much better.
Listen, I'm just trying to keep track of everything that's changing here. This world is changing quite quickly, and the older I get, the slower I am to adjusting to it.
No, the codeine syrup is what Jamarcus, though, judging by his weight, he might have been addicted to both. So
Maybe he mixed them.
we're going to get in trouble this week. I'm fat shaming people and saying illegal
No,
company names.
You can't say you're fat shaming somebody. I mean, come on. It's been a few days since I hit the gym. Let's just say that.
Also, I'm addicted to Aunt Jemima syrup as well. And
I could be drinking water.
if I could be rich, I'd probably be addicted to the codeine syrup as well. But
Too expensive.
in the present state, I have to work too much and don't have enough money to be addicted to fun things like that. All right. All right. We've gotten off track here and
Because we have no picks. That's why.
conversations.
Because we have no picks. If we had picks, we wouldn't even be talking about syrup or sizzip or whatever.
All right. This next one should be a fun one to do. Detroit Lions at the Los Angeles Rams. 16 and a half. They aren't going to let you put your money line Rams into any more games. I'm sorry.
This is horrible.
Total sits at 50 and a half. First half, 8.5. Total sits at 26 and a half here. I don't quite know what analysis to do on this game. One team bad, one team good. 16 and a half is ridiculous. I do not take 16 and a half point lines in NFL games. I don't care who it is. So the Rams are out on that side of things. The Lions are out after they totally disgraced me last week and got rolled up by the Bengals by said 16 and a half point spread. So you give me some sort of insight here that makes me want to do something on this game.
The only thing that I'm probably taking in this game, other than that money line bet, which I spoke about earlier, I'm probably going to take the under in this one. It sits at 50 and a half right now. And I know that the Rams is a very explosive offense. They could put up a lot of points. I could totally see them putting up a good 34, 35 points on their own. But what makes me confident in this under is the fact that they're playing against Detroit, and Detroit has had a really tough time getting things going on offense. As poor as I think the Rams defense has been playing this year, they really haven't been poor. It's just, I'm still suffering from the effects of last season's team, which was, one of the best defenses in the league. And because they're not playing up to that standard, it feels like they're playing poorly. They're more of a bend and don't break type of defense. They'll let you get a yard, but they won't give up points. And that's one of the reasons why I feel confident in taking this under. I think that the Rams can put up points on them. I think that the Lions are going to have a hard time. And I don't know how this, return to LA, return to face your former coach, McVay, is going to go. But I think that Stafford will probably relish facing his old team, especially, when he's got this shiny new car that he's been driving around these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I will say it helps your bend but don't break defense. When you play the Giants and Lions in back-to-back weeks, you don't have to bend nor break. You basically just have to stand upright.
Hey, listen, I got a feeling that the Rams defense is going to move up the charts after this week.
Yeah, I know. All right. So I can get with you on the under. I thought that was a little high. The only thing that makes me a little nervous, you said it, and you've seen Detroit. They tend to score a handful of late touchdowns. So if the Rams get to 35, which is about what I'm guessing, that's, in and around where they got to in the Giants game, you have a margin of about 2 touchdowns there. I assume the Lions get 1 touchdown somewhere. Do they get a field goal in there and then tack on that cheapy extra touchdown and end up at, 17 somewhere and we get ruined? But yeah, the under 50.5, I thought looked pretty good here. Definite value. The only worry would be, one, the Rams want to rack up a bunch of fancy offensive numbers as well, especially versus a team that has no secondary right now. So I'm if you want to take a player prop that I'm already hitting, take that Deshaun Jackson. I'm looking for his 1 catch, 80-yard play this week. It might be 2 catches for 160.
Yeah, the Lions are definitely susceptible to giving up big plays over the air, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on if you're looking for a little side bet. And the Rams also have had a tendency so far this season to go for a big play early on in the game, especially when they receive the ball first. They tend to go for a deep shot on their first play, and versus this Lions defense, unfortunately, it could be one of those really productive games for Deshaun Jackson.
All right, we can put the total 50.5. We can mark it down as a mutual, or we could just put it to the side and see if we like anything in these next couple games here.
I'll put it in the maybe column, and then we'll see afterwards.
All right, next up, Houston Texans, Arizona Cardinals. If the last line wasn't ridiculous enough, this one somehow is even more ridiculous. Arizona 17.5-point favorites here over the Houston Texans. Total sits at 47.5. First half at -10. Total at 24. I don't know at what point Arizona became a team where I'd even fathom a 17.5-point spread. But once again, I'm not fathoming this. So Arizona's a total cross-off. Houston on the road versus Arizona, I'm not real keen on. So you tell me something you like here other than one team good, one team bad.
There's not really much I like out of this game. The Cardinals are probably leaps and shoulders. They're so much better than this Houston team. And I know that spread is ridiculous, and I wouldn't take it, and I wouldn't recommend anybody take it. But I can totally see the Cardinals definitely covering this. Their offense has been pretty much on a different level, even though I tend to hate on them here and there because of their style of offense, their style of play. Not a huge fan of it.
This will be the one they lose.
Yeah, this will be the game they lose. Yeah, that's exactly how it would pan out for us. But, this Houston team has been struggling. Their brightest spot, other than, the week one where they played really well, has been their running game. The running game hasn't been horrible, but going up against this Cardinals defense, which seems to be getting better week by week, I wouldn't expect much from this Houston team. I could totally see another goose egg here from this Houston team, and doesn't bode well for a lot of these open bets, whether it's the over under or the spread. I'm just not taking anything here. I think this is basically like a bye week for these Cardinals, and we'll probably see backups pretty early in that game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm just I'm a pass on this. I don't like the total in this one because at 47.5, that's lower than the 50.5 in the other one. And, I think Arizona has more of a chance of wanting to run up the score than the Rams do. And I do think, whereas the Rams, you got a really, really good defense. Now, the Arizona defense has been really, really good, but I do think they can be had a little bit more than the Rams defense. So that total going over, under, I'm just a cross-off on because I don't know where this game goes, and it's hard to predict where games go when you know it's going to be a blowout. That's, the hard part. You're trying to analyze and be like, how is this going to play out? But when it's 28-7 in the third quarter, it's going to play out like an exhibition game, and no one cares. And they're either going to all be in agreement and run out the clock, or they're all going to try to get stats so they hit their contract numbers at the end of the year to get bonuses. So, predicting that stuff is just really, really hard to go by.
Yeah, I'm not taking any action on this game. Again, this has all the potential to be a complete blowout. And it just, even looking at that over under, as you mentioned, to me, it would take Arizona scoring 95% of those points for it to be close either way. So I'm not taking any action on this.
Yeah. All right, so we managed to get out of the teens here in the spread-wise, but the Chicago Bears go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 12-point spread, and this would total at 47. First half at -7, total at 24.5. I will say of the big spreads, this one I liked a little bit more for Chicago here. They played last year. It was that famous, Brady throwing away the ball on fourth down and then holding up the 4 down fingers and thinking it was third down, not fourth down. I think the Bears team plays this one tough. I think their defense does things to Brady that he doesn't like and tends to not want to stick in that pocket in regular season games. So I thought the 12 was a bit high here. I put the Bears ahead of teams like, Detroit and Texans. I think they're in a totally different class here. So I think that 12 is a little bit high for me. I like the Bears in this one getting 12 points. I don't think they can win, but I think this defense can mess with Brady. This Bears team beat them last year. It's pretty much exact same other than Fields at quarterback. God knows who was playing quarterback at that time. I don't think it was Trubisky. It was
If they won, it had to be Trubisky.
It was probably Nick Foles, for God's sakes, or something worse. What do you think of this one?
I think this, as you mentioned, I didn't like this game just because the spread was so high, but I didn't really think about it in terms of taking Chicago here. And I think you're right. We've noticed so far this season that Tampa Bay hasn't really had the defense they had last season. I know they've been a little nicked up and they've, had some setbacks, but overall it's pretty much the same team and they still haven't played the same way they did last year. Now the offense has definitely been playing a lot better than they did last year. They seem to be on pace to what that playoff team was playing like. But Chicago, listen, they got some playmakers on defense. You're talking about Robert Quinn. I believe the Ogletrees there also. They have some big guys up in that front line that can really cause some trouble and wreak some havoc for Brady and the gang. And I think that there's no way that the Bucs lose this game. Okay, I'll come out and say that. But I think that the Bears can do enough on both offense versus a weak Tampa Bay defense, and on defense, with the playmakers that they have, to keep it close. And as you mentioned, what the line is at 12, right?
Yes, 12.
I think this is a game where, with such slim pickings out there, I think this is probably one that we have to consider. You like the Bears. I didn't think about it, but as you start talking about it, it made a lot of sense to me. So I'm totally down for taking the Bears if you are.
Yeah, the other thing is Antonio Brown's out, Rob Gronkowski's out on that side of thing. Once again, the Tampa Bay corners are pretty much all gone. Sherman's been ruled out. They might get Antonio Winfield Jr. in this game, but he's questionable off a concussion. But judging by concussion protocol that I've seen this year. Basically, if you can stand upright and you're allowed to go back on the field. So I do think the Bears present decent value here at 12. I went back and looked at the box score. It was large package Nick Foles taking control of the offense here. So Bears won last year, 2019, with Nick Foles manning the helm, and it wasn't even good David Montgomery. He only had 10 carries for 29 yards. They didn't even have really good running back play in this game. And the guy who's been backing up, David Montgomery, has been pretty solid. I just like the 12 here. I think that's pretty good value.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this is a game we have to put down, especially with such slim pickings out there.
Yeah, definitely so. All right. So we got another one in the books here. Is that 3 or is that 4?
That's 4.
All right. 2 games left. One game to find our 5 mutuals. Indianapolis Colts versus San Francisco 49ers. 49ers -4 here. Total sits at 43.5. First half at -3. Total sits at 21.5. Honestly, I was shocked. Niners 4 points in this one. I know they're coming off a bye, but what have the Niners proven so far this year that they're, 4 points better than the Colts? Right now, from what I've seen, these two teams are somewhat similar. QBs that can't stay healthy, defenses who sort of play hot and cold in spurts, and I didn't get the 4 totally here. I'm curious your thoughts.
I mean, I've got written down. When I was looking at the spread, I was shocked. As you mentioned, I know the Niners are coming off of a bye week, and I know that the Niners are considered to be a pretty good team, but they haven't lived up to the expectations so far this season. I know they've been banged up and they've dealt with injuries, but this Colts team hasn't been bad over the last couple of weeks. We saw Wentz really kind of come into his own, over the last few weeks. That running attack is pretty legit. I would say that it's a pretty scary running attack because they can attack you on the ground or, through the air. They're very versatile in that backfield. And the Colts defense has been picking up their play. They're not as good as they were last year, but they have been playing better. I don't know how much of that is the opponents. I don't know how much of that is, scheming, but I kind of like the Colts here +4. I know that they're on the road and the Niners are coming off of a bye week, but just based off the way both teams have been playing, I kind of like the Colts here at +4.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, you mentioned it. Indianapolis defense on total DVOA is 17. San Francisco's defense on total DVOA is 12. Indy's offense is 15. San Francisco's offense is 10. Those are minuscule, divisions there, So I just, I don't know, especially since I'm not 100% sure. I'm assuming Garoppolo might play. He's questionable, but that tells me he's probably not 100% healthy. If we're getting Trey Lance in this and it's -4, I think the value totally flips towards the Colts here. And even with Garoppolo, I'm not 100% sold that the Niners are that much better. So I like the +4 here too. I do think the Colts will be able to get their running game and play action game going. I thought their offenses looked better and better, week after week. So, and there's a good chance we're getting Trey Lance here. So I like this Colts at +4 here. I think this is off a little bit.
Not to mention the fact that, T.Y. came back last week and, granted, he didn't look great, but, for a guy who's been out as long as he's been out, I thought he looked pretty good. And you can only assume that, a week later, he's going to get slightly better. So adding that dynamic of that, that fast, speedy wide receiver on the outside can only open up things for those running backs, which had already been playing pretty good. So like I said, I like the Colts in this one at +4.
Yeah. Before we flip and mark the Colts down as our 5th one, I wanted to get in the other game and see if you liked that one a little bit better because, this spread threw me a little bit. Saints at Seattle. Seattle's 4.5 point underdogs at home here. Total sits at 42.5. First half sits at 2.5. Total sits at 21.5 in the first half. I get it. Geno Smith's the quarterback, but what has New Orleans done so far this year that they're 4.5 point road favorites in Seattle? Seattle's already lost 2 home games. I find it really difficult to believe that they're going to lose 3 straight home games. So I thought there was value in the 4.5 for the Seattle Seahawks here. Yes, Geno Smith, I get it, but he's shown the ability to stay in games. They haven't won games. That Steelers game could have gone either way. The Rams game you mentioned was on the table, and they were driving down till that interception. So, I'm curious what you think of that one.
Yeah, it's a similar type of situation as the San Francisco one. I think that Seattle's being a little bit, undervalued here. And the reason being is Geno Smith hasn't been horrible. You saw him last week. Numbers weren't, astronomical or anything like that, but he was efficient. And that running attack really came alive. Defensively, they made a few plays, but they also had a few lapses, which is one of the reasons why they lost that game. But it was close. And you're talking about a Saints team that's been very Jekyll and Hyde this season. We don't know whether we're getting Jekyll. We know whether we're getting Hyde. I think that if we knew which team we're getting, I'd feel a little more comfortable. My only concern here is that Saints defense.
Yeah.
I feel like that Saints defense has a bunch of playmakers on there. They're probably not Pittsburgh's probably a much better defensive unit as a whole, but I think the Saints defense has more playmakers. They'll make plays. They'll cause turnovers. They'll score touchdowns on defense, and that's the only part that gives me a little bit of pause. The coach, he's a very creative coach offensively, but he sneakily does some really good defensive schemes also. And that's the only part that concerns me there is that, Geno Smith is coming in here and he's going to get caught off guard by some sneaky plays on defense. That's the only thing that gives me pause. But I do like the Seahawks here, especially getting points.
Yeah, you mentioned it. New Orleans defense in total DVOA ranked third so far this year. They've been really, really good on defense, which is why you win games. The other thing here is, are we trusting Jameis to go on the road in Seattle and win games? And honestly speaking, how much really is there a difference between Geno Smith and Jameis Winston? If Geno Smith was the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, would their record be that much different? What has Jameis brought that Geno doesn't do? He can make some really, really high leverage plays, and then occasionally he makes really bad turnovers, which seems to be Jameis Winston in a nutshell.
I can guarantee you one thing. I'm pretty sure Geno Smith has never ate a W before.
All right, so which of these do you like better? Do you like the Seahawks getting 4.5 at home, or do you like the Colts getting 4 on the road here? I think that'll be our fifth and final one.
Honestly, I'm torn. I think that I'm going to leave this one up to you, like I did with that Lions game last week. The Lions game that I let you pick last week.
All right.
I'm going to let you pick it because, honestly, I'm torn. In one hand, you got the Seahawks at home. They got the 12th man, which is obviously a huge boost to that team. And then you have the defense of the Saints, which gives me a little pause. On the other side, you have Carson Wentz, who's been playing a lot better with T.Y., back in the fold again. And then you have a Niners team that could play good, and they're coming off of a bye. So I think they're pretty even, so I'm going to leave this one up to you.
Let's go with the Colts here, and then if they win, we can start teasing dynamite about the Colts winning this division.
You see, that's just more incentive for me to take the Colts.
I'm more of a spite better in what I can hold over other people's heads than actually wanting to cash in and win money.
I'm right there with you, especially this week.
All right, bud. So those are our 5 picks. Why don't you recap them for us, because you've been writing them down?
Of course. We have the Dolphins at +2.5. We have Carolina at -1.5 for the first half of the game. We have the Raiders at -3, the Bears at +12, and the Colts at +4.
Nothing like a bunch of middling teams in the teens as our bets.
At least we're getting points in most of them.
All right, bud. That's our mutuals, our 5 mutuals. Let's get into our real picks on the week. How many picks you got for us this week?
I'm going to go reluctantly. I want to go on the record. Reluctantly, I'm going with 6.
Well, we must be on the same wavelength because I'm reluctantly with 6 here. And I was going to send you a text. Can I do 1?
I had 1 pick. That's what I had. And I was like, I know I got to do more than 1. Can't go with 1.
So everybody, 1 is the actual pick. 6 is a pick, so we produce content for you on our football time show.
Now, I won't come out and publicly announce which one was my 1 pick, just in case it doesn't hit. But I'm going with 6.
I am going with 6 as well, but there is 1. Maybe winning daily on Sunday. If you watch, I might give you my 1 real pick that I'm going to lay actual big money on, and the rest I'm going to put token figures on because we run a gambling show, and I feel it necessary that I feel like I actually gamble on these. All right, what do you got for us first?
All right, I'll kick us off. Now, this one is definitely just a gut feeling and maybe a little bit of wanting revenge, but I'm going to take Kansas City at minus 4.5 versus Tennessee.
Is that your one? Are you going to the casino today
no.
to collect the big ticket on the Kansas City Chiefs?
No, I'm not. I don't feel comfortable at all with that pick, but like I said, it's just a gut feeling.
I think you should cash out the mortgage check, head up to Harris, get that ticket, and send the big photo to Dynamite David so he knows you're serious this week.
He's still gloating about that Monday night game. And I'm still crying, to be honest with you. So, no, I won't be doing that.
Or wait till after the game's over, and then if it wins, send him a ticket.
There you go. That's the plan.
We know some former workmates who like to show fake sportsbook tickets on their lunch.
Oh, yeah. There's been a few here and there.
All right. First up for me, I'm going with the Miami Dolphins plus 2.5. You mentioned guts. Mine's growing with each day, so I'm learning to trust it. I'm going with the Miami Dolphins plus 2.5 here.
I like that one. For my second pick, I am going with Carolina minus 3 at the New York Giants.
Ooh, Carolina minus 3. All right, you're going to like this one. The wife is not going to like this one. I'm sorry. New York Jets plus the 7 here over the New England Patriots. Jets, Jets. Let's see if the Jets can cover a 7-point spread this week.
See, now I kind of wish I would have picked the 7th one and picked the Patriots just so we had a head-to-head here. But anyways, I'm going with my third pick here, and that's Baltimore minus 6.5 versus Cincinnati.
All right, I'm on the same with you, but I'm going Baltimore first half minus 3.5 here. I'm not trusting this 6.5 enough. I think they get up on them, so I'm going first half 3.5 for Baltimore in that game.
For my next pick, I actually have the Colts getting 4 points at the 49ers.
All right. Next up for me, Las Vegas Raiders minus 3 over the Philadelphia Eagles.
For my fifth pick, I am taking the under at 50.5 points in the Lions and Rams game.
All right. Rooting for no points in that game. I hope they win 13-0.
Yeah, me too.
Chicago Bears, plus the 12 versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. We already talked about this one. I just think this is too many points for a Bears team that does things Brady's not going to like in regular season. He'll be throwing some worm burner ground balls out of that pocket pretty quick to avoid getting sacked there.
For my sixth and final pick, I am taking the under at 48.5 in the Washington and Green Bay Packer game.
All right, last up for me, Seattle Seahawks plus 4.5. Too many points at home in Seattle. They aren't going to lose 3 straight at home. So those are our picks. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get all our content, our college football content with the aforementioned Dynamite David. Our picks and preview show broke yesterday. Don't want to miss that. Our NBA preview show is still up there. You want to get in on good NBA action. Lakers again tonight. Are we going to get a Lakers win?
I really hope so because that first game, kind of disappointing.
I feel bad for Anthony Davis. He's having to guard 5 people, which is very interesting, but should be a fun season. Be sure to look at our NBA coverage and Winning Daily. Of course, you don't want to miss that to miss all our picks and parlays through the week. That's our show. Achilles, where can we find you?
As always, you can find that dude Achilles on Twitter at TD Achilles. Really quick, just want to give a shout out to Lux Nova, the wifey. Happy anniversary, baby. And we'll be hitting the casino.
All right. Big money night in the Achilles household. That's our show, and we're out.